What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I am one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Greg, we gotta get off this planet.
Why?
We gotta get off this planet.
What's wrong with this planet?
It's a good planet.
Where'd that come from?
I'm tired, man.
I thought you saw the Pluto stuff, maybe the earthquake news.
No, the Pluto stuff's super exciting.
Yeah.
Super exciting. It's nice to get a clear image of that beautiful planet. It's not a planet.
It's not even beautiful.
Colin, what is it?
It's a dwarf planet.
It's a dwarf planet.
Over here, this is Proud of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
Good to be here with you today.
Good to be here with you, too. You're playing your new game with Portillo. Where
I just hold it. I don't pull it away from him. I just hold it in a place where he doesn't want it, and he gets so upset.
I don't know if he's upset he's playing. This is how dogs play.
His tail is wagging.
He's excited for the attention.
I like how you say his tail is wagging, and it is the stillest I've ever seen.
No, it was wagging. Like when he pulls it.
That's just all his muscles in his body working.
I'm not putting any pressure on it. I'm just not letting him take it.
He's so elongated.
He's
I
a
like
long
it.
dog.
He is.
Over there. The pure one. Tim Gettys.
Let Tim host.
So now you're tired, you think, from Comic-Con?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Still.
you guys are busy.
Did you
man.
go home?
You're
You
going to a lot
sleep?
of shows.
I tried. I mean, we got home at I think I got home around 10:30 on
Oh,
Sunday
hold
night.
on a second. Yeah. Brief me on this. Because you guys caught the standby flight
Right.
with me. But you had to check your bags before you got standby.
Right.
So did you have to wait at the airport for 2.5 hours?
No, it was only about we tried to get on standby for the 7:00 flight. You were on the 6:30 flight.
Right.
The guy looked at the listing of flights and was like, these guys aren't going to make it through security in time for the 6:30, so I'll put him standby for the 7:00. What he told us was he said he was like, there's no one on the standby list. There's 8 spots open right now, and the flight doesn't look full. So I'll put you guys in this. You'll for sure get on this flight. So I double check. We get through. We see you. We're like, hello.
Hello.
You're boarding your flight at the time.
Yeah.
We go to the other kiosk where the lady correctly informs us. She's like, no, you're probably not going to get on this flight because there's only 4 spots. You're on the list, but there's only 4 open spots, and I have to take her experience into account. And she was like, well, my experience dictates that you're probably not going to get on this flight. There's going to be other people that are going to come priority boarding, whatever, and they're going to get your spot, so you're not going to get it. However, I can put you on the 6:30 flight.
The flight I'm on.
Which is the one you're on, and you can for sure get on that. I can put you on that right now if you want, and you can just go. But your bags are checked at the 7:00 flight, so you're going to have to wait an hour to get your bags. The problem was the 7:00 flight was already delayed because as she was talking, the other person that was there picked up the phone and was like, okay, all right, 7:30? Really? Okay. Puts the phone down and goes, this flight's going to be a little late because the pilot isn't getting here till 7:30. And I'm like, can they just do that? Can they just call and be like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like coming in.
It's
I'm
all
just going to be
good,
like
bro.
a half hour late. Can they pull a Tim Gettys and Nick Scarpino? Be like, we'll be there at
We'll
7
totally be there at
and not
9.
get
And
there till
9:30, you get a text, you're 10 out.
8. Right. So that's how that worked. But what was hilarious is that you saw us and you were like, oh, these guys are finally here. I'm waiting on the flight. It's going to be so amazing to get on that flight and get home before them.
Rub it in their face.
Rub it in their face. Then they gave us a boarding pass that was 20 seats ahead of yours.
I didn't like that one bit.
So you were C24 and we were C1 through 6.
Yeah.
And we got on the plane way before you.
It sucked.
And it was awesome.
But so we land in SFO. I don't never heard. Did you have to wait for your bags for
Yeah,
it?
we did. It was bull. Okay,
How long did you wait?
There's one rule when it comes to airplanes, and that is you either have Virgin, have a great old time, or you don't. And that's really all it is.
Truth.
So here we are with Southwest, and they're just like, man, I don't want to just be hating on airlines because everyone does that, but it's just like, good Lord. Southwest.
I thought it was fine. I mean,
The dude that helped us was
Mark.
the nicest.
Mark from
Shout
the
out to
Southwest.
Mark
Shout out
from
to Mark from
Southwest.
San Diego Southwest
He was
Terminal.
an exquisite gentleman.
Yeah.
He helped us so much, made sure everything happened. Except for the fact that he moved us to all this stuff that Nick just explained.
Well, no,
he could have just moved us to the flight Greg was on to begin with.
He didn't think you'd
Put
make
our
it.
bags
to
on
be
those
fair,
things.
it was like 5:50 when we were signing up for all this outside of the security check right when you get into the airport, and the flight was boarding in 10 minutes. So if I were him, I would have been like, I'm not going to put these guys on this flight. There's no way they're going to make it. It's going to stress them out, and they're going to be pissed off. I'll put them on the 7:00 flight where they can for sure get in. He made the right choice, and also it wasn't that bad. We landed. We were like, one of our bags getting here, and the lady in SFO was like, they're going to get here in about maybe 30 minutes. So we went and got Burger Joint, came back, and they were there. Not a big deal.
I mean, that was awesome, but it was just so unnecessary.
It was all unnecessary.
And it was like, why? I still don't understand how time works in the sense of our bags. Because our bags were on the next flight that the pilot wasn't even getting there until 7:30. How did we leave right then? And then our bags got there 20 minutes later.
Well, I have a theory on that. I have a theory that they can just make up the time whenever they want by flying faster.
We're going to make it up in the air. They always say that.
They always say that. So
Why don't you just always fly as fast as possible?
I know. That's my other thing is I'm like, so if the flight takes an hour and a half, but you can theoretically, and not theoretically, you can physically get there in 45 minutes, why don't you always get there in 45 minutes? And I know it has something to do with the amount of jet fuel extra you burn, which I'm sure is incredibly expensive. But at the
Colin
same
will tell
time,
you too, like the whole lunar things.
there's a whole lunar thing too. There's trade winds that you
think it's
catch,
called
not
gravity.
going north and south though.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any trade winds that you can propel on top of. But it was very fascinating because we told the woman, we were like, no, when we left San Diego, we heard that the flight wasn't leaving till 7:30, and it took us an hour and a half to get here. So we should have an hour to wait. And she's like, no, that thing's landing like soon. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. This is a time paradox right now. That if I kill my grandfather and he comes back to kill me, which one of us wins?
Exactly. If you didn't know, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, you can head over to patreon.com/kindafunny and get the whole show early as a video or MP3 each and every Friday. If you don't want to give us any money, though, don't worry about it. Head over to youtube.com/kindafunny the next week and get it broken up topic by topic, day by day, until we post the entire thing as one big video in MP3.
This one's worth $1.
Is it?
I'm calling it right now. I like our energy. I like where we're at. We're at that perfect level of we're all weird and tired and exhausted.
Yeah.
But keyword weird.
We're always weird.
Yeah, but like we're weirder than normal.
Did you watch Ballers?
I did.
It was a good episode.
It was a
I
good
like where
episode.
this is going. It's heating up on Ballers
It
in
is.
Ballers country. Here's the thing I was pointing out to Christine. This isn't my topic. My topic's coming in a second. It's
fine.
The thing I pointed out to Christine, I don't know any of these fuckers' names. I'm just like The Rock and then the guy who works at the truck dealership and that other guy who's fucking the mom.
Yeah. I don't know their names yet either.
Okay.
But I didn't know the names of the guys in Entourage until maybe season 2 or
Vinny
3.
Chase, yeah.
I mean, yeah, you knew Vince Chase, but then it was like E-Money
Turtle.
and Turtle
Yeah.
and Johnny Drama.
Yeah.
I guess I do know all their names.
Lloyd.
There was Lloyd. Lloyd was hilarious. And
Ari
Ari Gold.
Lloyd.
But you don't learn those till later.
Sure.
Honestly, the show it fulfills a need for me. And it fulfills the same need that Entourage did, which was pure escapism.
Sorry.
What are you doing over there? What's with these shenanigans happening on Greg's lap?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to distract you.
No, it is
I
one of
don't
those.
like interrupting
Whereas I liked Entourage better because I'm more fascinated by the Hollywood lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't really care too much about sports.
Ah.
This still fulfills that. Hey, we are ballers. We're making a ton of money and being around all these people
Yeah.
and partying and having a grand old time.
We should
So it's
send a
fun.
rock. Is this what Baller feels like t-shirt?
That is amazing. We should do that.
Somebody find out Kevin, find out what t-shirt size The Rock is.
He's probably a triple XL.
My topic is a sequel to last week's topic of mine as well. Last week I wanted to know about superhero movies and which would be the first to collapse, and we had a great rousing debate about all of these things.
There was
Then,
imagery.
There was imagery.
Yeah.
I shrunk us up here. I put the imagery down there. Of
Oh, I was gonna give a shout out to Kevin.
course not.
No, shout out to
If
Greg.
it's Kevin, the images would be all flipped.
Everybody tell Greg he does
Everyone's
a good
name
job.
bars would be misspelled and be on the top of the screen instead of the bottom of the screen.
We love you, Kevin.
Crazy this episode.
Just real quick, you're obviously going to talk about Batman vs Superman and
Suicide
Suicide
Squad.
Squad. Can we just put a picture of that wonderful Harley Quinn on the screen the entire time so people can just bask in her glory?
Bask in her glory.
Because she's so beautiful.
I'm sure Kevin will do it slightly. Kevin, give Tim's face HarleyQuinn's face.
Okay,
Yeah.
move on. I'm
Yeah,
sorry
okay.
to interrupt you.
No, that was great.
I'm being disruptive today.
So that exactly that's what happened. So last week we talked about what's gonna happen with these superhero movies. Where's everything gonna go? Da 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 da. Then Comic-Con happened. We got to see looks at Suicide Squad, obviously Batman v Superman, and then Deadpool had stuff out there
Yeah.
too. And so here we are. We've had individual conversations. Nick and I did a conversation about Batman v Superman.
was
Colin and I
GRAD.
talked on Colin and Greg Live. We all watched the Suicide Squad HD thing, but we didn't do a full blown reactions to it.
Dissertation.
A lot of requests for it.
A lot of it. So I thought that this would be an easy way to kill that and get everyone's feedback on what's happening. So, Tim,
Yes,
what is happening with superhero movies for you?
I am absolutely thrilled. Every single person I talk to, I'm just like, whoa. I can't believe we're in this place right now. I can't believe this is the future we are in. We get to watch all of these movies. We get all of these trailers.
Yeah.
Now, to me, the trailers just as important as the movies. I love the hype. I love watching it for the first time. I love talking about it. I love them leaking the shitty cell phone version before they release the real one because that creates this like level of hype that you just can't get if you just release the full one.
Sure.
It's just because everyone wants it.
You
Everyone
gotta
wants
know
to
you want it. You don't know if you want it.
And
so-
it's people telling you, like describing it to you, which to me, I think is better than any trailer will ever be. When someone explains to you what happens, because that's their perfect version of it. That's their trying to hit all the key emotional points and stuff, like letting you know. And in your head, you get this vision that's just awesome. And then you see things like the Suicide Squad trailer in HD, and you're like, that's cool, I guess.
That was the problem with Suicide Squad, I felt, right? Is that we were out to, when Batman v Superman dropped, and it was actually out as a nice file. You could watch it, right? I was getting ready to go host a podcast or a panel at Comic-Con, and then I noticed it on my Twitter feed, so I stopped, sat down on the bed, watched it, then it turned off the lights, and I watched it again. And I was like, this is amazing. And there was no real build up to it. I hadn't heard anything about it because I've been trying. I knew eventually I'd see something, so I didn't worry about it. Then jump ahead 5 hours. I'm done with the panels for the day. I'm hanging out. And Sean Pitts was telling us about Suicide Squad. And you guys were talking about it too, and that it was awesome and this, and Joker looked awesome at the end of it, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then when I watched the bootleg cell phone version far off and stuff, I was like, all right, I kind of see this seems cool. And then when we saw the HD one, I was like, oh, that was fun. Yeah, that was fine. Like, I don't know if it had... If it had one arm tied behind its back because it had just come out after Batman v Superman, which was like, I thought, an amazing trailer. That was just a fucking awesome trailer. But yeah, I wasn't like blown away by Suicide Squad. I thought, yeah, I did think, what is it, Leto? I always say it wrong.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Just his last name, Leto.
Leto.
You want to say Leto sometimes?
Jared.
No, like a
Jared.
Leto
Jared.
deck.
Jared
Fogel.
Gerard.
Jared, his Joker, I liked. I liked at the end there, right? I'm still not sold in the teeth or whatever, but like, yeah, his characterization and talking about how he's going to hurt you real bad, that was cool.
To me, I think the most important thing about Suicide Squad, like the trailer, was how much I felt this nice little flow between Batman vs Superman and it.
Their
where
universe.
For the first time, I was like, the DC universe is a thing. Like we knew it was going to happen. But so far, it's just been a bunch of movie titles and dates.
Yeah, Man of Steel, and then here's some logos.
Yeah, and here's a bunch of logos and stuff. But it's like now it's like, oh shit, they're actually doing this. And to see that in the Batman vs Superman thing, you get some Joker hints, and then to see Batman in the Batman or in the Suicide Squad thing, I like it. It's all starting to actually feel like a thing, and they're definitely playing catch up with Marvel, but they're doing it differently, and it's definitely not going to be good. But that doesn't matter. I'm going to be entertained. Oh,
Suicide Squad's definitely not going to be
good. No, I think that overall, like that whole universe, I'm just worried. I'm really worried we're going to get a good movie.
You think it's definitely not going to be good?
I mean, honestly, like so far. But again, having said that, just because it's not good doesn't mean I'm not going to like it. I'm still going to enjoy it.
I don't want this to be Transformers, though.
I know.
I don't want this to be something where you're like, I'm happy this exists, even though it's bad.
But I mean, I honestly, Batman vs Superman, the trailer looks great. I have a feeling that like the trailer is going to be better than the movie, and I think that the movie is going to have its moments. The fight, it's going to be fucking awesome. Seeing Batman grappling away from Superman, holy crap, that was cool.
Yeah.
How much the rest of the movies is going to be like that, and should a whole movie be that? No, but it's just that it's going to have moments that are going to make me go, oh shit, that was cool. Just like Man of Steel, when he flew, and it's like 4 minutes of him just flying around the world.
Yeah.
Awesome. The rest of the movie,
Okay.
I'm with you. I mean, I think I'm very excited for what DC has to offer. I'm very excited for this universe that they're building. I think it's to me it feels different than Marvel, where Marvel now has had the luxury of making so many good movies that they almost don't feel great anymore. Like you watch them and you're like, I know this is a good movie. I know I should be super happy with this, but it's that fatigue.
It lacks that punch.
Yeah, it's not doing anything differently enough for me to really feel like this is a unique and fun experience. I loved Avengers 2. I thought it was fun. I don't know that I'll watch it again unless it's on cable and I just happen to flip to HBO at that specific time. But with the Suicide Squad specifically, I'm excited to see where they go with it because it's a much darker vibe. I was a little disappointed when I saw the full HD version of it because there was something a little bit more dark and grimy. There's a lot that you had to leave to your imagination when you watched something that's 200 by 200 pixels and it's moving constantly around.
Mute it.
See, this is no one saw this. Everyone thinks that we're being mean to Kevin. Kevin flicked this off just now, and then he lifted up his shirt and slapped his belly, and then there it is. Yes, Kevin.
God damn it!
Make the monkey dance.
Jesus God. I see. My thing is like I feel like my first blush to Suicide Squad trailer was like, okay, that was cool. Like I'm gonna see that movie obviously.
Yeah,
I feel like I like where they're going. I like the Batman cameo. I like Harley. I like Deadshot. I like what I saw from Joker. Right.
And the other guys.
Yeah, and the other guys. Killer
Exactly.
Croc. Yeah, no, I know.
The fodder. The guys that are clearly going to die.
Well, some of them will for sure, but that's the whole point too of the Suicide Squad is that you can kill people.
Captain Boomerang's dead.
No way.
Captain
Boomerang's not.
Boomerang.
He's not making it to the end of
He'll
Suicide
come back.
Squad.
Captain Boomerang will live.
We don't need Captain Boomerang.
Rick Flag Jr.
Come on, guys. Come on.
But anyways, no, I'm sorry. I thought this teaser trailer, this initial trailer, had a chance to is similar to the Batman v Superman trailer. The teaser, right? The first one, where that was in IMAX and stuff. Where it came out and people were like, I don't know. I was like, I think if they did this and the ideas they're hinting at seem cool, and then we got the full-fledged trailer, and it seemed like even people who were hating ass haters were suddenly okay. The Dawn of Justice looks cool.
Yeah, I mean,
will it be a good movie? Who knows? The trailer's awesome.
I don't think that it's going to be. I think it'll be a very, very entertaining movie.
Yeah.
Good. I don't know if that'll factor into the actual criticism of it. I don't think that it's going to be as impactful as The Dark Knight, which is what everyone's going to be comparing it to. But I mean, honestly, in my mind right now, I'm just not even going to bring in that. I'm leaving The Dark Knight where it is. I'm not going to bring it into the conversation.
It's different.
It's different enough to me
not
where I'm
trying
like,
to be that.
Exactly.
Well, that's what, Colin, you can talk to this. You were talking about how you were happy with the Superman trailer to see notes of Nolan, right? To see the influence of Nolan.
I mean, these are two different trailers. I think that I got just two different vibes from. I think with Suicide Squad, I think Suicide Squad is going to be a bit of a mess. But the thing I was most interested in with Suicide Squad specifically was with Joker and Harley Quinn because, and I was talking to Greg about this, and I assume that people already know the answer to this, but I just didn't know. Is that my assumption is that Jared Leto and what's the woman's
Margot
name?
Robbie.
Margot Robbie will both be in the Batman movie too, right? Like you have to assume that they're building.
You mean the standalone Batman?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I
then yeah,
assume
probably.
so,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So like, I'm interested more in the tendrils that movie's gonna have out into like other DC movies
Sure.
in this universe we're talking about. I agree with Tim's kind of point, which is just like who like Captain Boomerang and Killer Croc. I mean, people know and stuff, but it's just like who the fuck are these people?
Yeah, but
this
I mean,
is like
5 years ago, this is what we said about Groot and Rocket Raccoon and Guardians of the Galaxy.
I suppose, but I just feel
Colin's
like
favorites.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know who those guys are now. You know those
I
references.
knew who Rocket Raccoon was.
Yeah.
To be fair, for a long time, I don't know why. But to me, Marvel has way more cachet with like names, and they have way more names because they're typically about groups.
Yeah, they have big
right.
groups,
The
yeah,
Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, like whatever it is. So there's just a lot of names, and to this, I'm like, I get a little concerned about Suicide Squad because I'm like, it looks great, it looks very stylish, and I'm excited to see it. I want to see it, but I'm like, this is what you have, like this is it. Like I want more, and I don't think that they have that much more other than their big marquee, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, Aquaman, et cetera, et cetera.
Justice.
It's like there's big names that are like standalone guys, like Batman. That he's a lone guy. The thing with Batman versus Superman that was interesting to me was that it looked way better than I thought it was going to look, and I've always been excited about it because I want it to be good. And like I said, to folks on Colin and Greg Live, and I expressed it on Facebook actually in our fan run group, was just that like I want this movie to be good because I love Batman and I love Greg, and Greg loves Superman, and I think that this is Superman's last shot, to like really gain some sort of mainstream relevance in this cycle of movies for the next decade or whatever it is. And Man of Steel, I think people were probably pretty hard on that movie, but people didn't like it, and the market's gonna speak to that. So I want this to be good, and I want it to resonate and make sense because I do want DC to have. I like what DC's going for more than than I care for Marvel. And it's not to say the Marvel movies I've seen, like I really loved Iron Man and etc. But it's just the over the top, like really corny and cheesy, like fucking superhero shit. I don't like that, and. That's the ironic thing to me with Batman vs Superman is that kind of is what this is, because Superman is like the ultimate fucking superhero, but like the old school corny superhero that can do everything.
It's true.
And Batman to me is more like the dark, gritty, grounded reality. And I'm interested to see the God versus man thing is actually quite interesting. The more I've thought about it, the more excited I get about that. I just don't want them to cop out, and they're going to cop out. It's all going to revolve around Kryptonite and how Kryptonite's going to, make Superman more palatable for Batman to fight, and then they're going to turn on Lex Luthor, right? So, like, I don't really quite understand why it's even Batman versus Superman as opposed to something that's maybe more.
Because that's a great title.
It is, but
it's a headline. Like, it's just to get people in, and like that's the way I see it. You're not going to call it Batman and Superman best friends.
Team up. But I wonder if
World's finest.
What I'm saying is I wonder if this would have been an interest. I think about it. I don't pretend to know comics enough to have like a valid opinion on this, so just bear with me. But it's why couldn't this just been a Superman movie, and Batman's just in it, they're not equals,
But they're using the professional wrestling motif to use Batman to get Superman over. Batman is super cool right now, and everybody thinks Superman's super lame and corny. So if you can bring Batman in and make a cool movie with both of them, or at least bring Batman fans in and show them Superman's not dumb, you get him over, which gets the DC universe over, which gets Justice League and the ball rolling.
Sure. My one real tangible concern with Batman vs Superman is it looks very dense, and I don't. because everyone's ignoring Wonder Woman's in the fucking trailer too. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
That
why?
upset
I'm
me.
like, why? Why is she even in this? And I almost want this to be like 2 or 3 movies because it's just like it's like what. And it's weird because I usually hate when people do that. You know, that they did it with Hunger Games and the last Harry Potter and all these kinds of. They're just The Hobbit just extracting shit for no reason. But I feel like this specifically is probably dense enough to warrant 2 or 3 movies based on what I saw in the trailer. I will say the thing I'm most excited about though with Batman vs Superman overall is Lex Luthor. I think I like Lex Luthor in that. I think he's fucking unsettling and weird. And I think that even though it's a Zack Snyder movie, it's not going to be a Nolan movie. They are taking serious cues from Nolan. And I think that that's fun and exciting. So I'm of 2 minds. Batman vs Superman, I think looks really great, and I want it to be great, and I think it has the potential to be great if they just don't cop out and don't do obvious fucking tropey shit in it. And then Suicide Squad, I think is probably not going to be good, but I think it's going to be very fan servicey, and people are going to DC nerds and comic nerds are going to enjoy it, and they're going to like seeing all these guys we've never seen before. I just get concerned about the resonance of everyone in that movie, but Joker and Harley Quinn. And I also started to ask the question of how much did they have to pay Will Smith to be in that movie, because Will Smith wouldn't be in Independence Day 2 because they couldn't pay him enough, and he's actually necessary in that movie, and he's doing this movie. Yeah. So I was like, that for some reason came to mind too, where I'm like, I'm really upset that he's not in Independence Day 2, but he's a fucking Deadshot in the Suicide Squad movie. He's never going to play that character ever again probably, and then it's just going to disappear from the universe. So that was just that's just a totally fucking random thought that I wanted to throw in at the end of my thoughts.
I think the thing that excites me about Suicide Squad is that you do have these characters that don't necessarily need to live on, right? And so you can take those chances with Suicide Squad, whereas you can't have Batman die. Yeah. He's not going to die. Spoilers, Superman's not going to die. Spoilers, Lex Luthor's not going to die, and Wonder Woman's not going to die. Yeah. So at no point am I going to think that any of these characters are in actual peril.
Joker and Harley are really the only 2 that can get through. And Amanda Waller, you imagine, without dying at all. And that's what's cool about Suicide Squad, and the fact that it is cool that there's a bunch of unknowns, right? First off, the posters are going to be Joker and Harley and Will Smith, because that will sell tickets. People know who those things are, and we'll get behind them. I'm sure Batman will be involved in the background of something or whatever.
They just comp him in the back of everything. He's always riding a car, just surfing.
Surfing?
I don't know.
But then, the rest of the cast can die at will, and I really do hope they take a cue from Assault on Arkham, the animated movie, and Amanda Waller's explained to all of them why they're here, and they're like, well, why we listen to you? And, well, you leave there, but your head explodes. Yeah, right. The guy immediately gets their head blown off or whatever.
Yeah, and you could. It is interesting though. You see the difference in the production value behind Superman v Batman and Suicide Squad, and there's a very notable aesthetic difference where Superman v Batman looks like they just poured money in it, and Suicide Squad looks like they've had to make some interesting choices. The first time you see Harley, she's in a chain link fenced off prison. But in my brain, if you're comparing it to Assault on Arkham, right? They had those badass pods, and there was a lot more pomp and circumstance around keeping these people in prison than there were than just normal bars. And so I think that there's going to be a sense of realism in this because I think by necessity, I don't know how much the movie was made for. I'm sure it's made for in the hundreds of millions, but I think that they have had to make some creative choices. And I like when movies start off like that. I like when movies don't get carte blanche. I like when they get, here's $100 million. By the way, 20 of it goes to Will Smith. Your above the line costs or half of your budget goes to your actors. So you have to make a superhero movie with X amount of dollars. Go and the first thing people normally do is go, shit, the story better be really good, better be really compelling. So my hope is that they looked at it and said, how do we make Iron Man 1? How do we go back and make Guardians of the Galaxy, not Transformers? Let's just go. People will buy this movie.
I don't think they're going to do Transformers.
Yeah, it's a cool opportunity, man. So. It's cool because I am a huge comic fan. I read a lot of comics. I know nothing about Suicide Squad. That's until the movie was announced. I didn't I've never read up on it. I never cared. Now I'm interested, and that's interesting. I'm in a different camp with Guardians of the Galaxy. And I feel like a lot of people didn't know what that was. I did know what that was, but it's not something I knew the entire history of.
Sure, right.
But I was excited for it, and then the movie came out. It was fucking awesome. So now, knowing that it's possible for it to be good, even though I don't really have this investment with the characters, it's exciting. I don't think it's going to be good. It's going to be fun, though. I guarantee I'm going to enjoy the movie. I know that. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, guys. That Deadpool trailer. That's what I'm most excited about. Batman vs. Superman is awesome. The trailer looked great, all that. But Deadpool, was it anything more than I thought it would be? Absolutely not. It was exactly what I thought it would be. And I am so happy about that. Because they could have fucked it up. They could have not gave me that. But they didn't. It's going to be good,
guys.
I'm interested in Deadpool. I'm interested in Deadpool just because you can do a lot more with Deadpool than you can. Namely, you can break the fourth wall a lot. You can have him making references to the person who is directing the film that he's currently in. You can do a lot more crazy stuff, and it's rated R, so you have that nice conversation between Ryan Reynolds and the guy from, I forget his name, TJ Miller from Silicon Valley, and that you can just have them sit there and just rip up each other apart and be funny. So it will have a sense of humor to it, but it's also going to have a real ultra violence to it, which
will be great. That's what Deadpool is.
Cool.
Yeah, and like that's the thing is like they're gonna nail Deadpool, which is awesome. And I also think it's cool that we saw Colossus in the trailer, so it's like we're getting this universe thing from a universe that whether or not we wanted to, we've been a part of since the year 2000.
Right.
And that's my question with the Deadpool stuff. Obviously, is more Marvel, and I'm not following. Is it happening? Is Ryan Reynolds, Wade Wilson, still the Wade from X-Men Origins Wolverine?
I don't know how that all works.
Okay,
to be honest.
Okay,
but I mean, I think it's
is that
the
Colossus from the X movies?
I couldn't see because it was on a freaking thing. But and also I'm pretty sure he was in like Colossus mode.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to know anyways. But I mean,
think presumably there's something different though.
Days of Future Past got rid of all that shit.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So it's set it all over. I was gonna say because that was because in the way
so good. Days of Future Past.
The Wade Wilson in the Wolverine, that was an origin story. So that was a long time before the events were happening, right? Like when he got his mouth sewn.
Yeah, that was X-Men Origins.
That
Wolverine.
was Origins of the Wolverines. That was supposed to be a long time.
But it was still Ryan Reynolds, which is cool.
Yeah, which is cool. I'm glad that they kept him. Well, obviously, you know, if Ryan Reynolds wants to play a part, you let him play the part. I like the homages in the trailer to. He's like, well, don't make the suit green, and for God's sake, don't make it CG.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked all that stuff. I think the thing that makes me happiest about that though is that they're dipping their toes in the pool of rated R comic book movies.
Of expanding.
Which makes me really happy because a long time ago, I'm sure you guys all remember, but there was a hint that Darren Aronofsky was supposed to do a hardcore Wolverine movie. And that would have been
awesome.
I mean, take the cuffs off Wolverine and we can actually see what the character is supposed to be like. Not that he's exactly happy-go-lucky, but, you know, you always have that left over from when we're kids where heroes, quote-unquote, can't kill human beings, so if they do, it has to be super non-violent with no blood, or they have to always kill machines, right? It's that G.I. Joe mentality where they can't fire real bullets, so let's have them fire lasers, but even lasers can hurt, so let's have them fire lasers into, like...
the ground.
And then the pilot always jumps out.
Yeah, the pilot always jumps out.
And,
hey, I'm good. You know, it's like, how big was the Cobra Army? Because it could have just been 20 people for all we know. They were always surviving and going back and just getting in new planes. Similar to Batman Arkham City. Like, how many tanks does that guy have?
Oh, they were all unmanned. Remember?
Yeah, they're all drones. But
and if you remember too,
like billions of dollars.
They chimed in that all the villains put their money together to take out for this plan. And also, there was a rumor from one of the goons on the ground that Lex Luthor was behind it too.
Oh, I see. Well, you always got to use other people's money. That's the smart thing to do. No, I'm excited. I mean, I hope it does well. I'm going to go see it, if nothing else, just to support the fact that I want to see more rated R movies come out, especially in the comic book genre, because I do want a rated R Wolverine movie. I would even want a rated R Batman movie, but I don't think that there's no need for that. But if you were going to do The Dark Knight, and you're going to wanted to do The Dark Knight Returns rather, and you wanted to do it like verbatim or you know, specifically following the source material, I don't know that you could do that and not have it be an R movie.
Right.
I mean, he's brutal in that.
I'm gonna spoil one little thing. Just it's a cool tidbit about '89 Batman from Who Killed Superman Lives, the documentary.
Oh, can I borrow that tonight?
Oh yeah, sure.
Don't spoil it.
It's one line. Just plug your ears if you don't want to hear it. When in '89 Batman, when you know Keaton grabs the guy and goes, "I'm Batman." The original line was, "I'm Batman, motherfucker."
No.
Yeah, and Warner Brothers wouldn't let him do it. They made him pull it.
That would have been bad.
That would have been bad, but it's just funny now to think about Batman.
That would have been one of those where I guarantee they filmed it and Tim Burton would have been like this. You know, hey Michael, let's do it one more time without the motherfucker.
Well, it wasn't him. I mean, that's how it was written. It wasn't like
no, I know, but I guarantee that's one of those where you watch it in context and you want to say you get what's called the safety.
It's funny because then when you jump to what is it,
All
All-Star Batman and Robin? Remember when they did that? And there's that line where he's like fucking driving. You've read this comic? I'm looking at you.
No.
Okay, whatever. He's driving the Batmobile and he's looking over at Dick Grayson, who he's just saved, and he's just being fucking totally brutal. And he's like on this rant. And he just goes, "I'm the goddamn Batman," and that became a fucking running joke forever. Like, what the fuck is this? Why would you tell this like kid mourning his parents, "You're the goddamn Batman"?
Jesus. But yeah, that's my take on that. What's up, Colin?
I was just gonna say what I'm most intrigued about is there Marvel and DC are both creating these universes, as we've talked about, that are contingent on the success of. It's like they're dominoes. It's contingent on the success of
The next one.
each previous movie, and I think I expressed this to Greg, but as I want Batman movie, the Batman and Suicide Squad to be good, but part of me wants them to fail because I almost want them to be like we like just go back to Christopher Nolan and be like, please help.
That's
You know,
not happening.
and Christopher Nolan would be like, you better have a lot of money because I said I would never make another Batman movie. And obviously people were talking about how he's like executive producing, blah, 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 blah. But I was bringing up the point like Ridley Scott is the executive producer of The Fucking Good Wife. It really doesn't mean anything.
But then I went back to the point that he did, though. He did have stuff to do with this.
Yeah, it's different because I mean, yeah, executive producer could mean nothing or it could mean a lot. And in this case, like, didn't he?
He was like, he's
the guy.
Godfather.
He is the Kevin Feige of DC.
The universe?
Like he is the grand Godfather Pooba now. They've inducted him as that.
But that was the thing I was expressing was, unlike the Marvel movies, which are scattered throughout different studios and had not even really been interconnected because of studio drama and all this kind of stuff, so like Spider-Man and X-Men and all this shit. But the precedent for DC movies now is extreme. It's way higher than Marvel because the Batman movies are just Nolan's Batman trilogy are just supreme movies, and I'm interested to see how this all goes if they're not good, because it's really got to be pretty fucking daunting to follow up Christopher Nolan, you know, when you're making the next movie like after him with the character that he really brought back after the fucking campy ass shit in the 90s. So I'm super interested because I think that the expectations are different. Like there's an expectation of quality with Marvel, and the movies are probably going to be pretty good, most of them. They're not special anymore because they're just doing them over and over again. It's like a fucking machine. It's a factory, but they're intertwined and they're whatever. But I feel like with DC, the expectations are going to be different because these are the example I used was I think with Greg, and I think I've brought up before, is that like the Batman trilogy was so ingrained in popular culture and like crossed boundaries and lines apart from nerd culture and kids and just excited young people, that like my dad was telling me shit I missed in fucking Batman. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that was weird to me. My dad's not gonna go see the Avengers, but he did see those Batman movies in the theater, and when he would fill me in on certain things I missed, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, no, this happened, and I'm like, how do you even know that? And I feel like it was that mass appeal that was super interesting.
See, I don't know, man, because I think Marvel has that too, especially now with the Disney shit. Yeah. Like Marvel it's a family affair. Like whether you're a kid or an adult, like. You know about this shit. It's
a family affair, but no, I don't agree that like my father who goes to the movies every weekend with his girlfriend and they go like religiously will ever see a Marvel movie. So I just think that these are the cinematic qualities of these movies are probably very different. One makes way more money than the other, but they both made a lot of money. But I guess what I'm saying is like none of them are standing in the shadow of Christopher Nolan except for Batman versus Superman. That's the one. So I'm just super interested if it doesn't work out, is there going to be a reactionary movement being like, fuck, you know, we did it right and we can't do it that way anymore without the person that's doing it, so we need to figure out a different direction. And then does it have, like I was saying before, the dominoes, does it have a domino effect and it affects Aquaman or affects other movies where it's like, fuck, we need to rethink everything because Marvel's just so ahead of the game and the universe is more congealed at that point, as opposed to you saying there's a god. If Christopher Nolan is the godfather of what DC's doing, then they're only 3 movies deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
what's interesting is I don't, and I'm not a fly on the wall, obviously, but I don't think they're what do you want to call it? Not temple, whatever. Their markings, the things they're trying to hit, their projections are based on Dark Knight. I think they're based on Marvel. I don't think they're going for Dark Knight anymore. And I think that's the whole thing, is that when you're talking about it, you're talking about it. Yeah, like right now it's interesting because if they fuck up these first few steps, and Man of Steel honestly was well received. It was like people like me were like, you were like that. There's some people who say it's the best Superman movie they've ever seen. And there's plenty of defenders out there.
Love it.
So like, but the thing is, like, if you fuck it up again, and then let's say Batman v Superman's not good, and Suicide Squad's not good, they've totally fucked up the entire trajectory of that thing, and they're locked into it, right? The Wonder Woman, the Aquaman, the Justice League.
Yeah, it sucked, and then things really fall apart because, like we were saying, they're leading also, and I respect it, with their big guns. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. If Batman and Superman don't resonate, guaranteed Wonder Woman and Aquaman are not going to resonate either. So
you know what's funny though? I'd be willing to bet though that I think that all they need to do is make an entertaining film for the Batman v Superman, and when they make the standalone Ben Affleck Batman, it'll be bonkers. It'll do so well because that Batman is going to be the Batman that carries people. That's going to be the Batman for the next 10 years. I mean, that aesthetic, that style of Batman. The problem with the Chris Nolan
That's what he said about Brandon Routh, though. I remember.
Well, what? Well,
When Brandon Routh came
the-
around and Superman Returns happened, I remember being like, well, even if this doesn't do well, that's Superman for the next.
But let's mince no bones about it. Like that, there's a far cry from what happened with Superman Returns versus Man of Steel. Like Man of Steel
I know
was
that.
a
I'm
good
saying,
movie.
I'm saying
it just wasn't great. It didn't continue.
No, I'm just saying removed from Batman. You're saying sight unseen on Batman, sight unseen on Superman. I was like, well, Brandon Routh's Superman for the next 10 years. I'm gonna get at least 2-3 films out of this.
Sure, but I don't think you think there's any way, shape, or form that Batman v Superman is going to fail.
It depends on what the definition.
Critically,
is.
it's not. Commercially, it's not going to fail. Critically, could. And I think that
Well, yeah,
will
but
have,
critically,
that will
Avengers
have,
2 didn't do as well as Avengers 1, right? Like all of these movies, we have to draw when you're comparing these to each other. You have to draw the difference between what is good and what is popular, and these will be tremendously popular. They are going to make a ton of money here and overseas. So I don't think there's any way, shape, or form we're getting another Nolan verse or another Nolan movie in that style ever again, just because there will be no reason to go back. This is a huge plan that they're going all in on.
Yeah.
And they can't step back. And also the hard part with the Nolan universe was that you can't put Superman in that universe. It doesn't work. You can't put all of, like Mr. Freeze
Aliens.
and all of these characters in it because
Killer
the
Croc.
reason the movie was so impactful and awesome was because his original concept was a direct antithesis to what had come in the Joel Schumacher films, which was how do we make a Batman film if Batman was a real person? If this world were real, using the constraints of what we know as reality, how can Batman exist? And he had to do it through cunning, training, and a tremendous amount of money. But then suddenly that aesthetic and that world gets torn apart the second you have a guy fly in on his own accord and just kind of chill there, right?
Even Killer Croc wouldn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense at all.
There's two things there that I think are important, and I'll talk about the Superman thing in a minute because that is a huge problem I have with Batman versus Superman generally. But it's based,
Superman.
Well, it's just
Superman.
No, it's not. It's that Superman and Batman, and I know that they do in the comics, and I know I'm not familiar with the comics. It just doesn't make any sense that they're together. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's never going to make sense. But because they're just, admittedly, my mind is in Nolan's Batman, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the reason I always took the Batman, even when I was a kid, even though there were some more supernatural or fantastical elements to it, is that it was grounded. Batman's always been grounded. It's just a matter of how grounded it is, and it got fucking really grounded with Nolan, and that's why it was fucking good, you know? And
Yeah,
so
but-
I was always excited. Killer Croc might be an exception, or Poison Ivy, but I think they can do them. But I was always excited. How would you do Mr. Freeze? If Nolan was going to do Mr. Freeze, how would you do Mr. Freeze? That was the thing I was always excited about. Was Scarecrow's easy and Joker's easy and Bane's easy and Riddler would be easy and all these characters. But I always wanted to see I always wanted him to take one of the supernatural ones, like Killer Croc, and be like, how do you make Killer Croc? How do you do it? You know,
Yeah.
figure it out and make it real. And that was always what was so exciting to me. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that DC, just with Batman and the popularity of Batman, made something grounded and something real. And that's what I was talking about with my dad. And people believed it. You know what I mean? And people aren't I'm not. You have to suspend your disbelief, of course, but
Sure.
But it's believable. I believe that those Nolan movies were as grounded as you could possibly have made it, and that was good. That's what they should have kept with.
See,
so when you put Superman into Batman's universe, I agree, and that's why I think that I talked to Greg about it. I'm like, when Superman rips the doors off of Batman's Batmobile, I'm like, come on, these two can't fight.
No, see,
You
I
know,
think, I think what you need to do is before you see the movie, specifically before you see the movie, you need to read The Dark Knight Returns, and you need to read it because that's how you tell that story. And there's a lot more depth to it than just two people squaring off against each other, one who clearly is going to win no matter what. And I don't want to spoil anything for you, but that to me is what that can be. And if it's anywhere close to that, it'll blow Marvel out of the water. It won't be, unfortunately. I don't think they'll get as close to, I don't think they'll have the impact that The Dark Knight Returns, the comic book, had. But if you read that, you'll look and go, oh, okay, if you do treat this from a way more adult perspective, you can get a very, very impactful story told. But also the problem with the Nolan movies is that when it's so, I'll disagree in that I think the third movie took a sharp turn downward. The realism kind of started to destroy it after a while because it became a product of its own, of that own environment that it created. Bane holding a city for an entire year was absurd. That was absurd. And it was absurd because the movie is supposed to be based in reality, and that is an unrealistic thing to have happen, right? It doesn't, why? What the hell is the point of that?
Yeah, but I disagree with that fundamentally in this, and I really, we talked about this, it's not a farce. I really do think that's the best one because Bane had motive and none of the other guys did.
But the motive what was the motive?
He was giving, like I said, it's so clearly inspired by Occupy Wall Street, that movie. He's giving the power back to the people. It's not necessarily his intent. but that's what the movie's about. It's a peasant revolt. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to, I appreciate like the man that wants to watch the world burn, the man that doesn't give a fuck, like Joker thing, but Joker had no intent, like no motive. So like, it was fun to watch, but why the fuck? Like, my question is, why was Joker doing anything?
Well, see, but that's why that movie was so good, and why The Dark Knight Rises wasn't quite as good. It was because there is a morbid fascination and curiosity with watching someone who stands for the moral right and will not kill and is based in reality go up against something that has no laws and no constraints. Right? That's what a lot of people resonate with The Dark Knight, is that they wrote a character, and let's not mince any bones about it. The Joker made that movie because the Joker was so well done that no matter what you could do as a logical person, you can't beat him. You can't beat that character. And even at the end, one could argue that he didn't beat him. The only way to beat him would have been to kill him, and you can't kill him because it would break his moral code. So the Joker always wins because he's always alive, right? With The Dark Knight Rises, I think it was just so farcical and so fantastical that you're like, how is this even going to be how's he going to, why is all of this happening? Whereas with the Joker, you're like, I know why it's happening. Because the Joker wants it to happen, because we have no control over our lives, and that's what the Joker really kind of signifies for us.
I don't necessarily disagree with that point, but the reason Rises is so good in my mind, or is multiple reasons. I think it's clearly inspired by political events, and I think I like the idea of a guy coming in and just, he's all about anarchy and lack of control. He gives the city to the people, you know. And I love all of there's little lines in the movie and little scenes in the movie that are awesome. I love Catwoman's line when she's like, she said something about how you guys have had so much and you've left so little for the rest of us, or whatever. And I'm like, that's a fucking awesome line, and it set the whole rhythm up. So like when they're in all the mansions and they're having parties and just like, and people are hiding from the
Right.
mobs and stuff like that. I'm like, this is awesome. And it ties back to Batman Begins because it's because of Ra's al Ghul right?
Ra's al Ghul.
And like that was the problem with the second movie, is that they didn't touch on anything that happened in the first movie at all. The movie that wrapped up the trilogy was the third movie directly.
Sure, but the way in which they wrap it up.
And Bane is from that group, you know.
That was a great and that was awesome. But the problem was Ra's al Ghul's original intention was to have the city purge itself by an upheaval that would eventually just basically, he wanted the city to just kind of all the scum just tear itself apart, right? And that's awesome. And if that had been their motivation, I'd have been like, this is a stunning conclusion to this trilogy. But they were going to blow the fucking thing up. They were going to just nuke the city. What was the point of that? With themselves in it, I might add.
That's what I loved about it, is Bane was totally suicidal.
But that was totally like, and that's where it started to break down for me, was I was like, wait a minute. The grand plan is just to blow the city up after holding it hostage for a year? What is that proving, right? Whereas the Joker had a point to prove, which was that if you think you're in control of your life, you're not. You're not. There is no such. There's this thin veil of society breaks down the second you. I forget what the line is, but the second you introduce a little chaos into it, everything goes away, right? And that's awesome because that's reality, right? We have this social contract with each other, but the second anything happens, we all turn into animals, and we saw that in the second one. What was Bane's grand message sending out to the world? Hey, by the way, when you hold the city hostage, it turns on itself, and then when you blow it up, it blows up. That's it. Hey, I can nuke a city. Anyone can nuke a city.
His message was, take back your city.
Yeah.
He said it quite clearly.
By the way, as a note to that, someone on the fan run Facebook group had circulated. I never seen this before. I mean, you guys probably had, because you were just more engaged in this stuff. When they had shown before, they showed like the entire opening sequence of this third movie like early to people, like 6 or 8 months before the movie came out, before a certain movie.
Yeah, it was IMAX.
And no one could understand what Bane was saying. I didn't realize that is why. Like, I knew that Nolan changed it in post or whatever, and like made him re-record his lines and stuff like that. But I didn't realize it was because the audiences complained. I always thought that because I was reading like news clips from that time, and they're like. And Nolan was saying, I think it was Nolan was saying things like, you don't need to understand everything he's saying, as long as you understand the intent. And I'm like, really? Like, that's so weird. Like, so they even knew at the time with his mask on that they could not hear him. And then audiences like widely complained, and so they redubbed it. I had no idea that was the sequence of events.
Oh yeah,
I just thought that was an interesting tidbit in case people didn't know that.
That was huge when people saw that. The number one thing they came back with is like, it was cool, but. And you never want people saying that. You never want there to be a but when people are promoting when there's a word of mouth going around. He had a similar thing happen. This is not the only time Nolan's had this happen. He had a similar thing happen with Interstellar, where he released the IMAX version and everyone, myself included, saw it and was like, this sound mix is so off for this movie that it actually hurts to sit in the audience because there was so much bass. At one point, I turned to my wife and she was covering her ears. Like, what the fuck's going on with this? And I'm like, I don't know. That must be. And I assumed it was something that the projectionist had done. Maybe there was a sound mix. Up. Yeah, there's just too much bass and they had to go right back and EQ it, or maybe the sound system wasn't set up perfectly for that. But he came out and apologized and was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess people just don't like that much a wall of sound coming at them for certain points."
I'm all about that.
I thought it was okay, but yeah, that Bane specifically, and that was it sucked for Tom Hardy too because I guess you never want someone to go back and have to redo their performance.
Yeah,
and of course, then it just sounded like he was being broadcast over a stereo.
I loved it. I still stand by that voice is unsettling as shit and perfect for that character.
Oh,
it's so fucking weird. Like that's what I love.
It's Hulk Hogan's body with Mr. Magoo's voice. Just like, what are you doing?
I remember, again, when I first saw it, I was like, this is awesome. I remember at the plane sequence, I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. He's fucking creepy as shit.
You know what's even funnier about that? And I know we're going along on this topic. What's even funnier about that is had they just done the ADR, the voice replacement from the get-go, and no one had ever seen that other stuff, no one would have given it that much shit. It's the fact that there was such a big deal made of, oh god, now Tom Hardy has to go back and read. Because by the way, it's very popular for watch any movie. Probably 60% of it is ADR. You're filming on a street, you're filming on a beach. Anytime you see a beach scene, that's not their voices. Because you can't mask out the waves. You'll be like, honey, I you know. And that's just that. So normally if you get a good ADR and a good sound recordist, they can figure it out. But on that specifics, that one that was just the headlines hit, and then it was like, then you're paying extra close attention every time. It's like, yes, and you're like, wait, his eyes are going the wrong way. What the hell is happening?
I will say just real quick because again we are wrapping up, and I think Nick would appreciate this the most. Although you're all film fans, is that, and I've expressed this I think maybe on Colin and Greg. We talk so much I don't know where the fuck I said any of this shit. Going back and watching the Batman trilogy again, which I did just a couple weeks ago in order, just back to back, made me realize that with Interstellar and also with Inception, and I guess Memento as well, that I am just a fucking huge Christopher Nolan fan. Like I am like so on that guy's fucking dick. It's like not even funny. Like I am. For the first time I've identified, and this makes me excited about film and it makes me excited about cinema. Like I've identified someone that just does what he does in such a masterful way that I'm like, you can't fuck up. And I almost feel bad for him, like if he ever does make a movie that's bad. I haven't seen all of his movies, but I'm just like he must have to be so deliberate now with the projects he creates because it just gets better and better and better and better. Like Interstellar, to me, is like so extraordinary that, and the Batman trilogy and Inception. I'm like, these are fucking awesome, awesome movies. So I thought you maybe would appreciate that like I've identified for the first time a thematic style of groundedness. Taking the unusual, whether it's traveling through your mind and some weird time travel shit or fucking space travel and all this, or Batman, and he just grounds it. Yeah, and I love it. I think he's so talented. I cannot wait to see what he does next. I can't, and I've never felt that way about a director ever. Or a writer ever.
I think that's why a lot of people like him, right? It's because he has a clear vision and he executes against that. Similar to the reason why a lot of people don't like George Lucas was because he had that similar thing. It just didn't quite work out. Where Nolan is a master storyteller and he works with his brother and his team to tell his story. Now, a lot of people you can go in and pick apart things in his movies where you're like, really? But by the end of it, you're like, shit, that was a piece of art, right? Similar to how you can go into a 20-hour video game and be like we played Arkham. We're like, don't like the tank stuff. Don't like it at all. Yeah. Still love that game. Yeah. That's Nolan in a nutshell. Stuff. Nolan in a nutshell. Yeah.
Real quick before we end this topic, Kevin texts and says, The Rock's shirt size is unknown, likely 2XL. So now Kevin, get him this is what baller feels like t-shirt.